Welcome to another episode of Lost in the Script TV. How y'all doing? Another week has passed. Hope you had a stress-free week as possible. How you doing, Regina? Peace, love, Soul Train Duke to the rainy Sunday. The best sleep today, right? Best sleep you get on these type of days. We got a lot to get to this week, or today, should I say, from last week. This week was hilarious because the stories and the people who was isolated, blamed, not a surprise. We got music executives facing courtrooms. We got churches hiding behind the cross again. To Black creatives, fighting for credit in a space that they was promised ownership. We're gonna get to that. Federal government telling you not to believe your eyes again. But they're treating this one differently. And we're going to get to that. There's a shift in the protected. And a lot of stuff is being revealed based off of people's actions and reactions to stuff going around the country. It all ties together through the power, the plan of the power. The delayed consequences, power to define whether or not state violence is justified, power to sell trauma as content. We're gonna get to that too. We sick of this. At some point, we talked about we sick of the trauma porn in our movies. At some point, we need to be tired of the certain factors of our community or people that are part of our community being represented too much in content about us. And every time the truth comes out, whether it's lawsuits, leaked footage, the whistleblowers, there's a scramble for power to protect itself. It's just patterns. Who gets protected and who gets blamed. This is episode 216, Blame. And we can get right into it. Because I'm going to read this first and we'll get to it. L.A Reid Trial set to begin. John expected to testify. The things since something like that. I believe. L.A Reid's been accused by Ms. Dixon for sexual assault. It was a part of a lot of careers in music. You talk about the Outkast and Tribe Called Quest. She's a part of a lot of stuff in the music industry, in history at least, in hip hop. And L.A. Reid, she said, sexually assaulted her not once but twice through digital penetration. He sexually assaulted her, she said, on 2 occasions, once on a plane or jet and once in a vehicle with a driver. He denies all allegations. He also Miss Simmons flat out raping her in 1995, which obviously he denied as well. She's one of the 25, I believe, accused Russell Simmons of something. It's really not the trial stuff. I think coming up, the jury and all that stuff. Drew Dixon, because she is the person. He's a part of the case where she said she was trying to bring him in at some point, and she said that L.A. Reid pretty much sidelined her career, made things more difficult for her, which made her leave and go to go to Harvard Law School, I believe. And then she came back in like 2004 after leaving in like 2001 through John Legend again, trying to move him into the industry. So yeah, it's unfortunately it's your typical accusation of using power to abuse, and which goes along again with this next case, because these cases are pretty much the same thing at this point. Donnie McClurkin. It's crazy because the same thing I said about Tyler Perry last week, where I was more shocked when I found out he had kids and a former ex-wife or a woman that he was with for an extended amount of time. Donnie McClurkin, I remember as a kid watching, and my family, aunts and uncles all know this man is clearly homosexual. Those rumors and those things have been said for decades at this point. So now to see this is not a surprise. Grammy-winning gospel singer and pastor accused of sexually abusing a young man. Donnie McClurkin denied all the allegations in the lawsuit, which was filed by a man who says he sought out the pastor after reading his book about overcoming the curse of homosexuality. Don't even got to go into this article because it makes no sense. And I'm going to be honest. It don't make sense either way. So this, he's accusing Donnie McClurkin of pretty much being brought to him to quote unquote pray the homosexual away. Yes, that's exactly what he said. He said he was brought to him. They said they're going to pray it away. Obviously, if you're a person who pray, this is a different pray they was talking about, because obviously it led to totally different things. He said this relationship lasted, or his abuse lasted over years. They finally got tired of it and left, and it continued even after he left. He basically had sent him an email at some point that he never read until recently, talking about Donnie McClurkin sent the accuser to somebody allegedly using their power over someone else for sexual gratification. Donnie McClurkin, a Grammy-winning gospel singer and pastor, sexually abused a young man over several years and wrote an apology email declaring himself a dirty old man, according to a new lawsuit. Giuseppe says in the lawsuit that he was struggling to reconcile his sexuality with his faith when he sought out McClurkin in 2003. The lawsuit says Carletta, then 21, went to McClurkin's church in Long Island, New York, after reading an autobiographical book which described how God helped him overcome the curse of homosexuality. At the church event, McClurkin talked about being raped as a child, which resonated with me because that's similar to my story. He said he was brought to meet with Mr. McClurkin at an event, and the man took the immediate interest in him. At first, it was all very innocent and what I thought was mentoring. Well, if you go back to the ancient Rome or Greek times, mentoring is exactly this, tormenting, where an older man would take a younger man and he would become his male concubine, who'd be used as a, for his lust. That's where mentorship come from. But he now believes he was being groomed from the start. Now the question becomes, it's unfortunate past that he has being abused as a child and that demon being put on him when it comes to his sexuality. But the question got to be asked at this point, at 21 years old, at what point do we expect you to make decisions that you want, being able to say yes and no to certain things? Now you see right here, the McClurkin began to molest Carletta during the Pray the Gay Away spiritual sessions, the lawsuit says, and was abused escalated over the next several years. During this period, he worked as McClurkin's assistant and regularly traveled with him, according to the lawsuit. He struggled to process the incidents as sexual abuse, as they were both his mentor and employer, making it difficult for him to speak out about the abuse he has suffered, and the lawsuit says. Once again, not denying that something wrong happened to him. He felt manipulated and stuff. But at 21 and over a certain amount of years, like, come on. Like, at some point, we have to expect to know when to just not want something. As far as McClurkin, typical, unfortunately, he's part of the reputation that the Black church has, where you have these people that's in some form of power in the church, whether it's the pastor, the person who runs the choir director. These people typically have this background. This is the reputation they have. When you go to the church, unfortunately, to a lot of people, it's filled with a bunch of effeminate men, where it's not somewhere that a masculine man can be and be able to actually partake in his religion. It's filled with these type of people. So, bad reputation. But I hate to say this too, because I know these type of people, when we talk about these entertainers and celebrities, we're not supposed to treat them as role models. As we always say, you're supposed to raise your own kids and not rely on other people's actions to give them some level of something to obtain to, motivated by. But in reality, they are. These people that get these positions, these aren't, some of these people, for the most part, these people aren't just normal celebrities. These people have done great things in entertainment. They have great achievements. And you become a motivating factor for some people. So it is unfortunate over the last couple of years that so many of these, what we would call giants on the Black side of entertainment industry, have been taken down from the same thing, lust. Over and over and over, it's the same thing. Which obviously is a tale as old as time. And it's all these Black men that put themselves in these positions to build themselves up and then get taken right back down, which further muddies the water and destroys the image of Black men in this country. So it's unfortunate, but it is who they are. And unfortunately, when these accusations come out, because of my own belief about the entertainment industry and at large, whenever somebody come out and say anything about someone being with underage people or forcing themselves on someone, drugging someone, when we know how the entertainment industry works, you kind of have to you immediately have to put some level of belief behind it. You can't even deny it. Years ago, decades ago, you may have been able to say, not Black people, Black people don't do this type of stuff. That's the white side. No, it ain't. It's the industry. All these people operate the same way. So whenever these allegations come against people that even some of these people you like, some of these entertainers or celebrities that you like, if something come out against them, you have to give some level of credence to it because you know how they work. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Anyway, we'll see what comes from those two cases in the court. We shall see. Speaking of that too, because this person right here didn't want to come fully out and say what they wanted to say. So now they're coming at Tyler Perry from a different way. Christian Keys accused Tyler Perry. Christian Keys accuses Tyler Perry Studios of stealing his creator credit on All the Queen's Men. Now, when I went and looked this show up, I would have sworn it was a show that Tyler Perry wrote, but apparently he didn't. Now, Christian Keys, if you remember a little while ago, sometime last year, he came out with a very vague allegation against someone in the industry that he said was coming on to him in an inappropriate way. Never said a name. Everybody assumed it was Tyler Perry, but he never said a name and he moved on. Obviously, since then, we've had two men come out and say Tyler Perry sexually harassed or abused them. Now, he's come back out, Christian Keys, and said that Tyler Perry has tried to basically steal an IP from him. I'm going to play what he had just a little bit.
Remove my Creative by credit, and I had to call a union to have them force TPS to put it back on. I'm not sad that my show isn't there anymore. After season 5, it won't be there anymore. And I won't have to deal with that shady, corny kind of leadership that try to. You 7. We have contract credit. Why your corny ass trying to steal my credit? Because
when I saw this part, they sound like Denzel, right? There's questions about his background, but that's none of my business. He started to do. I said a while ago that when you're somebody in content creation or in the entertainment industry, particularly when it's TV shows or through targeting the Black female demographic, they can build you really high. Obviously, they're very important to build your audience. He gave a post for his undying love for Black women. She came in and said, basically, what about other races of women? We love you too. He very strongly went at her saying, no, I'm talking about Black women. Yada, yada, yada. And we kind of knew at that point, oh, we see the play he's doing. he might have been honest and genuine. I don't know. He may have been sincere, but it came off like he was obviously targeting and trying to build his Black female audience. And now that I know that he wrote this show, it's okay. Now it makes even more sense.
Yeah, I wrote the book and I wrote the show. I wrote the pilot. I created the show. I wrote the first season. It was originally, All the Queen's Men was originally 8 episodes, 8 half-an-hour episodes. And unbeknownst to me, Boss Man went in there and added 10 or 15 minutes to each episode, writing-wise, and then wrote the 10th episode himself. And I wasn't worried right away, even though I should have been a part of that. I should have been allowed to do that because I was the writer's room for season 1. So I wrote the whole season, but as soon as he popped in, and now it's 10 one-hour episodes, and he started writing on it. So then season 2, season 3, he just showed up and said, hey, here's the next 20 episodes, and here's the next 16 after that. I didn't get a chance to contribute, so that's when it got real weird. Yeah, he was like, oh, it's this. This is the hottest thing over here. Ain't nobody checking on that show. Ain't nobody worried about that show. Ain't nobody this, that, and the other. I got to put my name on something that ain't mine. And season 2 and season 3 is when All the Queen's Men got weird and dudes started getting raped with dildos and all that weird shit. Nobody want to see that shit. Put that on your show. That's why I'm glad my show ain't there no more. Put that on Oval or Bruh or Sisters or whatever. Put that bullshit on your show. I'm glad because I don't have to deal with that anymore.
He didn't want Tyler Perry's sexual perversion in his show. So now the part that's funny is when these people go to Tyler Perry Studios, they're promised creative control of their own stuff. They're promised to always keep their ownership. So the fact that he had to go to the union to make sure his credit was given is unfortunate. And obviously this is just a pattern for Tyler Perry apparently, where he just has an extreme control issue. Whatever's going on in his personal life, we see the allegations and stuff. It's clear that that's something that goes on to every part of his life. It's a control issue. He think he can just get what he wants, and whatever he wants, he can just take it. It's kind of crazy. But I think it's time to get Tyler Perry the fuck up out of here, honestly. People been asking for it for decades. I think it's time to get this fuck up out of here. Let's move to this. 50 Cent. Back with some more for the people. Regina said, pattern is the key to all of this matrix. Exactly. These people have patterns, whether it be these pastors in the church, whether it be these so-called producers, directors, and writers in the entertainment industry. They all got patterns. These executives, these big wigs, they all got patterns. And it's past racial lines now. 50 Cent developing true crime gang war series after Diddy documentary. 50 Cent has a pattern too, benefiting off gangster culture constantly. The upcoming A&E project follows the Curtis Jackson produced Doechii Combs. Jackson produced Doc, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, released last year. 50 Cent Curtis Jackson kicking off a new year with a latest project, this time collaborating with A&E for true crime series titled Gang Wars. The rapper producer confirmed the news on Tuesday evening, simply writing in an Instagram post, Gang Wars, coming soon, A&E, we got some heat. Jackson also shared a screenshot of the article by Parade, which cited a report by Deadline that Jackson's G-Unit Film and Television and Jonah Bechor and Jonas Bell, Citizen Jones are working together to an upcoming project. Deadline described the series as an unfiltered look into America's most infamous gang rivalries with unprecedented access and never before heard accounts. A release date for the series is not being revealed. Hey man, this is basically gangland, right? What did just go around and talk about the vicious, violent acts of these gangs across the country throughout the 80s and 90s. Do we really need this anymore? I mean, 50 Cent, you did BMF. I think you did even BMF Doc with the other dude who was a part of it, the brother. You did Power. It's constantly a certain thing. And I get it. People have their lane and it's successful. It is what it is. People like this type of content. And people don't really say the same thing, whether it's Godfather and all these other gangster movies about the Italians or the Irish mob and all that other stuff. But at some point, we've seen enough. And this isn't the type of content that's, for the most part, this deterrent. It's kind of more so treating like a lifestyle. And he keeps doing the same thing at some point. Like, it's like, we've had enough of this. We said we said we tired of the trauma porn of slavery and, you know, the Jim Crow type movies. When are we gonna move on from this as well? Are these stories meant to be educational, or is recycled trauma for profit at this point? Well, what is the motive? Is it just to get money? Is that all that matters for the representation of your community? I ain't putting this on his shoulders. He ain't got to give a damn. But I mean, I would imagine at some point as a people, we have to just decide we're just not going to watch certain content. But at that point, is it even about us anymore? Or is it more so just getting a audience to watch it? At some point, the content that they make goes beyond their own community, and it's about other people who may enjoy it. And that's where it's going to get tricky. Again, I got something to talk about that later. When things that you start doing intra-communally, things you start doing amongst yourselves, and it starts to leak out, and the other people start using it in a different way, and now you got to change course. We shall see. Anyway, after this, we're gonna get right to the meat and potatoes. I saw this right here. This is an old video, but I thought it was hilarious because, like I said, when he makes this type of content, when he makes this type of content as a representation, and it becomes something that's flooded in the media, this same gang content. What is this reception to be? Let me play this right here.
You know how we.
This is funny and real, honestly. This is old. This is out of Detroit. Let me play this.
You know how we say it take a village to raise a child? But what if the village is retarded? What you think it's going to produce?
They say it take a village to raise a child, but what if the village is sick? What if the village is broken? What do?
You know how we say it take a village to raise a child? But what if the village is retarded? What you think it's going to produce?
That's some real truth right there. Virginia says that it will happen when America is authentically American again, per your title. That's just some real right there. I had to show that. Yeah. Last on this segment, we're going to get to the meat potatoes, the Renee Good stuff that happens. What it means for the shift that's happening. First, I'm going to show this. Let me show this. This is somehow this became a beef amongst the streamer Adin Ross and the rapper Doechii. Out of nowhere, I don't watch his content, so I don't know what happened. So as you know, there's been these plant allegations against her for the last year or so, which I find hilarious. How do you see these people that get through that are clearly plants with no talent, but for some reason with her, it's an ardent effort to make sure something is exposed with her. We know what it really is. It's the blowback from the 2024 beef back and forth with the songs with Kendrick and Drake. We know what this really is about, but somehow this white dude says something disrespectful about Doechii, and it becomes a conversation about black men. Let me play a little bit. I'm not gonna play the whole 11 minutes. This is from the Higher Learning podcast. I put up a clip of this as a short. It became black men and not Glasses Malone, who was actually putting out the red light, the green light on Adin Ross for his comments, basically saying you're not going to be speaking like this in this space about a black woman. Like, at some point, there's a line, you crossing a boundary. So he decided to step out there, and instead of the conversation being about him, it became about the people that she says enable Adin Ross, and that can be a conversation, but it shouldn't always be the only conversation. Let me play some of this.
Obviously should be for the Adin Rosses and the Neons and what other streamers have built up their audience by degrading the black community and particularly black women. all that energy should be for them, but that's equal energy for all the people who have empowered and supported and uplifted the Adin Rosses that have allowed them to feel comfortable enough to insert themselves in our culture in order to justify degrading a Black woman, and then know that a Black man is going to have his back by shitting on another Black man and then saying, I'll go ahead and call the other one on your behalf. And that's whack 100. So when you're throwing in the Young Thugs and the Kodak Blacks and the Drakes or the athletes like an Antonio Brown who are sitting next to Adin Ross while he continues to shit on Black people and okay it and normalize it. Adin Ross doesn't feel like this because he's white. Adin Ross feels like this because he has the support. Maybe there's some Black women, I haven't seen it, but particularly from Black men in order to do this. I'm sorry,
So she says this, obviously, which Adin Ross was a streamer, a gaming 2K streamer on Twitch. That's how I first heard about him ever. He was a gamer who streamed live, video games live, obviously, on Twitch. Then he had a big uptick in growth when he sat next to LeBron James's son, Bronny James Jr., used to come on his stream sometimes. He said they were friends. Looking back, they were clearly never friends. Clearly, one of LeBron's rabbis had a son or some business partner he had. He's his son, and they said, hey, do us a favor and have your son go play with our son or our person so that he can grow his platform. So if you had to blame anybody for how much he's been put into, I'll say, the culture, it would be that move. But anyway, he grows, whatever, he moves on to another platform kick. And you got to understand, this is where the white shock jock internet edgelord culture meets hip hop. Because everything he's doing is typical. They antagonize those people. They try and create controversy, chaos, agent of chaos type energy to just build numbers. It's about getting numbers and attention and clicks and interaction. Doechii is just the latest person who's a part of this. He was an easy target. He's somebody who does streams with Drake. Doechii is signed to TDE. TDE obviously affiliated with Kendrick Lamar. So this was an easy way to cause controversy. The people who went onto his platform went there after, well, I'm not even gonna say that. The people who went on his platform are the people you expect to go on who are affiliated with Drake. You had Young Thug, I think Little Baby went on there. I think Antonio Brown, Chris Brown went on there, but he also went on Casa Knots, obviously, which most of these people also went on Casa Knots stream. This grew because of the plant allegations. People started saying this. People like him grabbed hold of it and made it bigger. And because he's one of those edgelord shock jock people, he decided to start calling her all type of Black bitches, stinky, and all this other stuff, which obviously started making people pay attention to it more. This is just agent of chaos and stuff he's doing. Her deciding to, and now Glasses Malone came and said, hey, you calling a woman out of a name, my partner's gonna see you at one point and we're gonna press you. That's what he said. He said it, platform, made sure he knew what he was saying. Don't get don't worry about it. And that's when we got what we got. Instead of talking about Glasses Malone, we're talking about people. Now, to be honest with you, I haven't seen not one of those Black male celebrities get on his platform and celebrate him degrading a Black woman. I haven't seen it. I've seen him go on his platform, talk about music and talk to fans and get some money and leave. Now, if you're seeing them standing next to him at all is support, then that's a whole nother thing. But I haven't seen none of these women, none of these and support him degrading women. I haven't seen that. But I want to play Van Jones' response right quick. Hold on, because pretty much her point that she stuck with. Let me just get to what he had to say.
Sorry, it's the truth and you know it. So whether it's a Black man, a Black woman, who allows this to happen we should all be getting the same energy.
If it was a Black, we'd be talking. We'd be finding ways
all
to
right.
excuse it.
Well, then fuck everything else I just said.
Yeah, I'm not saying fuck everything you're saying. What I'm saying is this: number one,
that's not the point.
I'm not making that the point. In this situation right here, the point that's being made right here is how fucked up the black men are. I did not glaze over that. But in this situation, it is a black man that is standing up for black women. It is. It is a black man that is standing up for black women. It is a black man, and I will say a black man that a lot of other times we ain't got no use for, not pure enough for us, not perfect enough for us, not don't work.
Gang member.
Got too many bad opinions. But when you need somebody to go in somebody's mouth over something, that's the type of nigga you gonna call. That's the kind of guy that's gonna do that, right? Because a lot of your other suit wearing guys not gonna do that. There's a black man that's standing up for a black woman. We are having this conversation because a black man said enough. Now, if we want to have another conversation where we talk about all of the insufficiencies and the weaknesses that exist in black men, that is completely okay. I was not going to discuss that without talking about the fact that part of the reason why Adin Ross feels so comfortable doing that is because it's been codified by some black men. You can't have a conversation without talking about that. But right now, to me, the conversation with Wack, that didn't even work. It's like, there are a lot of ways and places that you could criticize Wack. In this situation, Wack picked up the phone. I talked to Glasses. It didn't even go that way. I'm not defending him in any type of way. I'm not defending any of the guys that are alongside Adin Ross. If we want to have a conversation about black men and about the way we treat black women, like I said before, I'm here for it. The conversation right now is about this white boy that called this woman a smelly bitch.
You can't talk.
And to me, what we end up doing in perpetuity, and I gotta be honest with the audience, man. I have to be honest with you guys. In the past, I haven't. I'm sick and fucking tired of being a cultural whipping boy.
What?
Every single fucking time. I'm over that.
Why on earth would you put yourself in the same? I am talking about a particular.
I am a black man,
no,
and
but
I'm
you're
sick
not
and
all.
So I know to play the rest of this. Basically, he goes on to say you generalize when it's black man. The typical gender war topic becomes a thing. And I want to say this. At some point, we have to understand you can't control the internet. You cannot police people's words and how people interact with your culture and with your art and your content on the internet. You have to learn to deal with people by ignoring them. Yeah, that's just the point. Deciding to acknowledge these people that say these things on purpose to antagonize you is a losing way of doing things. It's no point in turning this into a gender war when it has nothing to do with that. If I want to be one of those weirdos that always talk gender war stuff, I could immediately bring up topics of a white woman remember a few years ago, there was a white woman who wrote a whole op-ed, a whole article talking crazy about black men and their insufficiencies and all this other stuff. And, coming to the defense of black women. And it was praised. This is a white woman that wrote this. Now we found out later, it was actually a black woman who wrote it and purposely used a white woman's identity to try to make it a bigger deal. Now, what does that say? What does it say that she decided to put these words in a white woman's mouth and it was actually celebrated? But that's besides the point. On the internet, half the stuff majority of stuff you see is fake. And when you do see somebody say anything, for the longest, people used to say, the internet is not real life. That's true. But people are on the internet. But people are also trying to make money on the internet. Especially you talk about platforms like X and TikTok and a man is on stream in front of his audience getting donations. Anything he says is for a purpose. It's to draw more attention to get more money. There's just no point in doing it. Turning this into a gender war is pathetic, but whatever. Anyway, let's go forward to this topic and quickly, because I'm not going to speak on this later. This was a late ad. I'm just going to read his headline and move on. Vivek Ramaswamy family bodyguard arrested on drug trafficking charges. And apparently he said that his bodyguard went through the proper, background checks and stuff. And
well, we don't believe you. You need more people.
They trying to get old Ramaswamy up out of here. Trying to get him up out of here. Pack him up. Let me. Hold on. this right here. Story of Keith Porter. That's who we're going to talk about first. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Why no charges? Friends, family of men killed by off-duty ICE officer asked after New Year's Eve shooting. Now, this story here is about a man named Keith Porter. Keith Porter, 43, had been firing a gun into the air to celebrate before he was killed. Family members say if the shooter weren't an ICE agent, we would expect that there would be an arrest, the community leader says. So Keith Porter, black man, New Year's Eve, like a lot of people do around the country when New Year's is coming in, they fire fireworks, some people fire firearms, rifles. So he was shooting into the air, to celebrate the New Year's coming in. An off-duty ICE agent, whose neighbor, came out, weapon drawn, pulled on him, telling him to put his gun down like he's threatening to kill someone. Now, you got a man who shoots with another man pointing a gun at him, threatening to shoot him if he don't put his weapon down. We kind of know what happens. To defend himself, and the ICE agent, off-duty ICE agent, shoots and kills him. Case is a bit more gray. Nationally, this wasn't the off of marches and stuff in New York, out throughout California, throughout the country. This wasn't a case that forced the president and the vice president to react. A case that just didn't know what to say about it, so it stayed in the gray area and it stayed quiet. For the most part, quiet. Let me play a little bit of this news casting right here.
Oh my God, he just loves so deeply.
Just days to the new year, 43-year-old Keith Porter still filled with grief and disbelief. According to law enforcement, her son Keith fired celebratory gunshots into the air with an AR-15 style rifle outside his apartment complex.
With an AR rifle, possibly suffering from a gunshot wound.
An L.A. federal officer confronted Porter, identified himself as law enforcement, and claims Porter fired toward him, prompted the officer to return fire.
What should have been a simple arrest and possible asylum has turned into a death sentence.
The family's attorney says this all avoided.
But instead of staying in his apartment for a trained law enforcement officer from LAPD to respond, he made the premeditated and calculated decision to grab a firearm.
Fox 11 reached out to the Department of Homeland Security. In a statement, the department said the off-duty ICE officer bravely responded to an active shooter situation at his apartment complex. In order to protect his life and that of others, he was forced to defensively use his weapon. DHS goes on to say their officer immediately called police.
According to his version, Keith shot 3 shots towards him. We have questions on if there was any shell casing recovered from Keith's weapon that would indicate he in fact fired the weapon 3 times.
Keith's family and their attorneys say they have yet to find a witness to corroborate that the father of 2 fired towards the off-duty officer.
It's unfortunate, but 2 Americans, I guess. Virginia says the internet, World Wide Web, definitely get you caught up too, definitely has little based in reality, and I have to remind myself of that constantly. When you read these PDF files about, CIA, FBI intelligence and how they're using certain social media platforms with bot usage and stuff, once you realize that maybe the dead internet theory, like, may be real, and that maybe 50 to 60% of the interactions you see online are fake, you don't take stuff as serious anymore. You don't get as angry. Your blood pressure don't get as high, and you just kind of move on with your day. Unfortunate story. We'll see if anything more comes out of this, any more investigation comes out of this to clear the name of the killed Keith Porter. Rest in peace. Condolences to his family, or if it justifies the ICE agent, off-duty ICE agent. We'll see what comes from that. But obviously, the case that actually got all the news around the country was just right here. Who was Renee Nicole Good, killed by ICE? Everything out of another story in Minneapolis, right? Once somebody went down a list of all over the last like 5 to 8 years, and so many of these cases, and how many of these shootings and stuff happened there. But anyway, who was Renee Nicole Good, the woman killed by ICE? The woman shot dead by the federal immigration agent in Minneapolis has been identified as Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3 who had just moved to the city. She was a prize-winning poet and a hobby guitarist who city leaders have said was there for legal observer of immigration and customs enforcement activities. Now, this is where this case is kind of crazy. The original video that everybody saw, if you cared. There was another video that was released that was, I guess you say, from the ICE agents, their point of view. She was parked in the street, or diagonally in the street. I guess she was doing a K-turn or something. She let cars go by. An ICE agent approached the vehicle, and another one around with his phone out recording. He says to the officer recording with the phone and said, he continues to go around, goes to the. Now, apparently, she has 2 former marriages, but she's now dating a woman. And I found out the reaction made so much more sense when it came to the conservatives or the right wing or calling her a terrorist. It made so much sense why they said what they said. She's in a lesbian relationship, and the woman with her, when the ICE agent tells her to get out of the vehicle, tells her to drive. She starts driving and pulling to the right while officers in front of her, and he shoots her, kills her. Run him over, vehicular violence, yada, yada, yada. Then they said, that's what it is. Like, she tried to hit him. He shot him. This is the man here, Jonathan Ross. The man that Ross says this became another topic. They immediately call her a white woman. Some truth is starting to be revealed about the belief system that comes with so-called white supremacy. That's why I say there is a shift that's happening. Her identity, being a lesbian woman now, allegedly, made people not give a damn about her life. And they started calling her a left-leaning person. They didn't care no more. I saw so many Caucasian women on social media literally defending. I saw one say she turned lesbian and went crazy. Why is she not home with her children? And all the type of stuff. I'm like, wow. Like the stuff we would normally hear them say, black man getting killed by a police officer or a black woman being killed in situations like this, they would now releasing that onto a white woman. And I said, I wonder how much different every typical woman married to a Caucasian man, a middle-aged family, would they have treated her the same way? And I saw quotes from her, I guess her ex-husband, when he was her activism thing. He said that she's never been an activist to me. But the dude who shot her, John, is married to a woman. I'm bringing this up now. Because you obviously support when you white people, this but some man that says typical wife, and it's because they feel like capable of sustaining that role anymore. Regina proud patterns, exactly. So now, Jonathan Ross allegedly was a part of the U.S. Customs Agency. He was Border Patrol. An CBP, I'm sorry, the Customs and Border Protection Use of Force Review. This is a cases and policies. This is from 2013. It showed, I got this from social media. Somebody posted this, and I thought it was real interesting. And they showed the actions taken, how these officers use vehicular harm as a reason to justify shooting on the border. And this person used to work for the Border Patrol. So let's read what it said. Observations. Based on a review of the submitted cases, it appears that the CBP practice allows shooting a driver of any suspect vehicle that comes in the direction of agents. It is suspected that in many vehicle shooting cases, the subject driver was attempting to flee from the agents who intentionally put themselves into the exit path of the vehicle, thereby exposing themselves to additional risks, creating justification for the use of deadly force. It reminded me a lot when we found out about George Floyd, that the on the kneeing on someone's neck like that was a tactic taught to the police by the Israeli forces, the IDF, how they trained them to do that. So this is another instance where something being trained in a whole different division is being brought to relations to citizens in the country. The cases suggest that some of the shots, the cases suggest that some of the shots at suspect vehicles are taken out of frustration when agents who are on foot have no other way of detaining suspects who are fleeing in a vehicle. Most review cases involve nonviolent suspects who poses no threat other than a moving vehicle. There is little doubt that the safest course for an agent faced with an oncoming vehicle is to get out of the way of the vehicle. But instead of getting out of the way, they shoot. So the mocking, they came out and immediately called this woman a terrorist. This is the MAGA movement. These are MAGA people. Immediately called this white woman a terrorist for her actions. Look at this right here. These are AI images generated by these MAGA people and how quick they're treating her like a typical, just throwaway, unnecessary person. They don't care. You know, in the history of this country, whenever you talk about people being patriots or service of their country, it's always about protecting the women and children. And that's when you start getting to the ideology of the patriarchy and white supremacy, who is really the people that they're meant to protect. And forever, people have been under the illusion, the belief that it's about protecting skin color, when it's always been about protecting ideology. It's all it's about. And I'm going to say something real heavy later on, so let me move on from here. Look at this right here. They're now comparing Renee Nicole to George Floyd. And remember, they've been mocking this man's death since he was killed. They're immediately connecting them because they're equal in their eyes. She's not useful to her community. She's broken a code by going into a different sexuality or whatever. Even though she's a parent with ex-husbands who I'm pretty sure are white, they don't matter. Let me show this right here. This is a quick video at a gym and how they're now treating KKK with utmost support. But look at this shirt and this little. He said, look what the liberal was saying about ICE.
Show everyone what a fucking pussy you are. Have a great one.
So the liberal has a shirt saying ICE is the KKK. Which, just like with the Venezuela thing, which I will get back to this episode, immediately when this woman was killed, immediately people started saying, if they'll do it to her, there's no help for black people. And I kept hearing next. If they doing this to them now, you're next. It's like, do you know how disrespectful it is to tell black Americans in America next? Like they haven't been the past, present, and future of the terrorist actions happening to citizens. No other demographic has been bombed in their own freaking country. in this country, I mean. Like multiple times, the government, whether it's the local state government or the actual federal government, has bombed black American neighborhoods. And you're referring to trying to get immigrants as the KKK. That's protests. You already know they was going to come out real heavy in New York. I'm pretty sure up here in Seattle, I'm pretty sure they were doing it up here the same way. This is a place that love to do marches and stuff. This is the actions of the liberal white. So let's get back to this right here. Pay attention to this right here. This is at another protest after the shooting. And these women are coming out there with their babies.
I hate what's happening to it with people who frankly aren't from here coming in and telling us who should be here. And when it comes down to loving my neighbor, I'm just going to love my neighbor. So
You have a little peanut with you.
I do. This is Lola.
Lola, and why was it important for you to bring her?
Just to feel the energy of love and community and to show people that I'm not going to let someone else intimidate me to live in a city that doesn't represent what I want it to represent.
This is a direct threat to the progeny of white men. This is the real gender war. All the stuff you see amongst black people on the internet where they arguing about 50-50 and paying bills and all this dumb shit. The real gender war is the Caucasian man and a Caucasian woman. That is the real gender war. This woman just saw a video of an ICE agent shooting a woman in the face. She decided to go to a protest with her baby strapped to her, basically saying, I'm willing to sacrifice your children for my cause. Her ideology, and I'm pretty sure that people would call her a feminist, quote unquote, her ideology is more important than your children. I'm willing to sacrifice not just myself, but your children, because I'm never going back to the way things were. That's the real gender war that's happening.
I want to be able to bring her in a place where people are saying we love our neighbors.
Minnesota is, I grew up here, it's known as a very welcoming place. Can you believe your eyes? Can you believe what you're seeing happening on our streets?
I mean, no, and also I have to, because if I don't believe it, I'm not going to take action, and I think it's important to stand up for what's right and show up the way that I would want someone to show up for me.
It's amazing. And what's your name?
I'm Molly.
Molly. Thank you, Molly. Thank you. I hope you make it back.
Yeah, that's funny. They lost complete control when it comes to that. Then I got to show this right here. Immediately I saw the defense. After this woman was shot, I saw so many posts of so many so-called, I'm not gonna say that, so many people with PhDs, black people, trying to convince white women to vote against the interests of their own community and themselves. We've seen Caucasian women vote the same way as their husbands forever because they never vote against their best interests and their children, particularly their sons. That's why you had this whole thing that happened with the educational system when they wanted to clear the whole thing out and threaten to get rid of the Board of Education because they didn't like the stuff they was teaching, which was affecting their boys' self-esteem and stuff. So I've seen these black women, these PhD having black women trying to tell these white women, vote against your man, go against them. It's better for the world. And they're still doing this after all these decades. Like, they tricked you already. You still think you can team up with these women. They will never choose their gender over their race. You have a few, like the woman I just saw there with the baby in front of her, clearly sending a message. You have a few of these people that are patrolling the streets to march and act like they're so liberal or whatever. But at the end of the day, when they have a husband and they have children, they're never going to vote against themselves. That doesn't make sense. They should never do it. They don't even make sense. It'd be silly for me to say that they should do that when if it was twisted around and the people at the top of the totem pole was black people, you would never expect, or you would never want or desire for black women to do the same thing. You would expect them to continue to stick with their community and make sure things stay where you're the top of the food chain. That's just common sense. So let me play this right here.
And just kind of tell me what you're doing and why.
I am painting live. This is what I do in general, and this is how I express myself. And this is a day that Governor Ross made Renee Unity Day, and this is how unite, and this is how artists speak. So we are here to make sure her spirit continues to live within us, and we are the bodies who carry her.
Now I wonder, when this happened with the the black people when you see something spread of it called Black Lives Matter. Yeah, we know. Who's gonna be the what's gonna be the white version of Black Lives Matter for her? Is it just gonna be Black Lives Matter to try and stand in front of this, or is it gonna be something else that pops up? And it's funny because I said when it came to Vivek Ramaswamy that the Democratic candidate he's going against is using nationalism to beat him. So the left or the Democrats are using nationalism to beat a right winger, which is funny because that's being xenophobic and you're using the fact that he's not quote unquote American against them in a political race. But that's besides the point. They're not doing the same thing with this. The Democrats are using the line, "You killed a white woman," as an attack on the MAGA people. They're using that point. You killed a white woman. There's no way in this society, the most protected demographic, the ones who are anything is done to make sure they survive. It is the Caucasian woman. She had the largest safety net on the planet. She's never supposed to fail. She's never supposed to be harmed or injured. They're using that against white men that you killed one of the white women. Uh-oh. So it's crazy how in politics, every election cycle almost, they can flip and flop what's important to either side of the aisle. They can just flip it on its head and make it where the left turns into the right and the right turns into the left. They can make one party pro-war and then next election cycle, they're anti-war, anti-interventionist. Because now you got the MAGA people defending Trump going into Venezuela after getting mad about what was happening under Biden. This is all manufactured consent at this point. Let me just go to the next thing here. Let me show this. Okay. Let me play what JD Vance had to say about this.
This is classic terrorism, and we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. This is classic terrorism, and we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage.
Now, keep in mind, J.D. Vance is married to an Indian woman. That is the woman he's married. He has children and is married to an Indian woman, and he's referring to a white woman as a terrorist in this country. Now, this person right here had to say, they said, in the past, even George Floyd, the Trump government did not rush to smear the man and call for an investigation. That every single member of this Nazi party immediately smeared this woman as a terrorist and defended her murder without even the pretense of impartiality is a massive escalation. I want to show something else before I get to another point. Let me show this here. What is this? Oh, yeah. Look at this. If white men become a minority, we will be slaughtered. Remember, if non-whites openly hate white men while white men hold a collective majority, then they will be 1,000 times more hostile and cruel when they are the majority of whites. White solidarity is the only way to survive. Now, when he say white, he's not talking about race. He's not talking about race here. He's talking about an ideology, a system. And this is why you see people like Elon Musk tweet 100 in support of this. And Elon Musk has been having a beef with South Africa because South Africa has a law where if you start a company in South Africa, I think 30% of the company must be owned by a quote unquote some or multiple Black South Africans. So you can't start a company in South Africa with a white person be 100% ownership. I don't even know if it's necessarily just white people. If you are a foreigner and you start a business in South Africa, you must have someone Black South African on the board to have some level of ownership with you. Now let me play. This is right here. Let me play it right here.
Otherwise, and so now I'm in this absurd situation where I was born in South Africa but cannot get a license to operate in Starlink because I'm not Black.
Well, it looks
Does
like
that
that's
seem
about.
right
Look,
to
it
you?
looks
Does
like
that
that.
seem right to you?
Looks like that's about to change.
I just asked you a question. Please answer. Does that seem right to you?
Well, those rules were designed to bring.
Yes or no?
Those rules were designed to bring about an era of more economic equality in South Africa, and it looks like the government has found a way around those rules for you.
Ask your question.
This is your interview. Everyone wants to hear from you.
Ask your question. Yes or no?
Not for me to answer. I have got a question for you about your government work, though, and the amount of savings.
Why do you like racist laws?
This is not for me to answer. Come on.
Yes, it is.
Now, you wouldn't be trying to dodge a question.
So you have to ask
It's
a question.
difficult for you
That's
to
my
answer.
question.
You get the point. I also want to show. Where is that? Where is that? I think this is. Hold on. It's this one right here. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, here it goes. How they're speaking about it. Look at this. Is this it? Sad that a child lost his mother for something that could have been avoided if she had placed her son above harassing ICE. Senseless violence has ran its course. We have to squash this. Poor kid lost his mother to indoctrination. They're blaming her sexuality and her following. She had Black Lives Matter apparently as a outline on her her bank account. Is it Cash App or something? I can't remember. Perhaps she should have stayed home with her son instead of harassing ICE agents. I want to get something in particular. Hold on, Hold on. Okay, there you go. Hold on, y'all. All right, we can do this right here.
So as I arrived at church yesterday, I noticed that there was something going on just a block and a half from the church. And so I grabbed my whistles because we're used to doing that. And I went down to see what was going on. And I realized it was an ICE raid. And there were many, many protesters. So I joined the protesting. And before I knew it, I saw ICE agents circling a young woman who appeared to be Hispanic. And so I approached her, and we were at that point chanting, "We are not afraid. We are not afraid. Go out of our state. We are not afraid." And I said to this ICE agent, "Take me. Stop seeing her. Take me." The agent got in my face, pointed a gun at me, and said, "Are you afraid now?" To which I said, "I am not afraid." The next thing I knew, they were putting handcuffs on me, and they put me in the back of an SUV. They came back 3 times, and they asked me if I was afraid yet. To which I replied, "Hell no, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm never going to be afraid of you." The 3rd time when they came back, asked for my identification. They asked for my cell phone. I asked them if I was under arrest. They didn't answer. And then they said to me, "You're white. You won't be any fun anyway. You can get out of the car." I was astounded to experience and see such blatant racism and the effects that this is having on our community. But let me tell you, the other thing that I was amazed by was the number of different kinds of persons.
Okay, so what up, Kiva? You see, it's funny too, because in this situation, once again, white didn't mean race; it meant nationality as well. He's American. That's why he's saying it would be fun. He's American. White is synonymous with American. Now, let me show what I was talking about earlier. Right here. This is Dr. Allison Wiltz. People say, "I'm not sure I believe anything he said." I wouldn't be surprised to be lying either. It says, "White women, they strip you of your rights, shoot you in the street, and reward the murderer. You will need to pick a side going forward. This goes beyond pink hats." Like, it's been decades, centuries. They're not picking a side as in going against their best interest. They're picking their side. The fact that you have, unfortunately, so many Black women who still think they can do business and work with white women against a quote unquote system, white supremacist, quote unquote white supremacist system, is crazy. Why would a person who's number 2 in charge, who benefit from this system more than anybody else, be against it? They've never been against it. They will never be against it. Y'all look crazy against their best interest. It's hilarious. Like, what are you doing? These are people with PhDs, and you still, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. And then my point there, we pointed out a lot of these so-called people or right-wingers, these people that push this ideology of, you know, white men are the victim complex onto white men or white people in general, how so many of them have partners who are not white. And like I said, the reason why they were willing to defend this ICE agent for the killing of Renee, because she doesn't fit what they need. She was according to everybody, she's a lesbian woman with children. She does not benefit the system to them anymore. So her death it's a collateral damage. It is what it is. This right here, this woman said, white genocide is real and it's time to stop pretending it's not. Let me show this.
I'm here with James Fishback. He is a candidate running for Florida governor. Just something that is such a big issue and Republican politicians won't talk about.
The Great Replacement and white genocide, they're both real, and I'm running for Florida governor. Stop it. It should not be this hard for Americans to exist in their own country.
You see that? He said Americans to exist in their own country, which means he's talking about white.
The entire premise of my campaign is that Florida is our home, America is our birthright, and we can never let them steal it from us.
Now, people started talking about this woman here and saying her skin is a little thin, isn't it? And they said whatever her background is or whatever it is. And both of these people more than likely or would be considered historically to be non-white. But that's why I say it's not about race, it's about ideology. And a bigger point I gotta say it. Women of quote unquote women of color do not care about racism. They do not care. It is not important. The ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, he's married to a Filipino woman. So many of these, I remember the Proud Boys and the MAGA people married to Black women, married to Asian women, Spanish women. Women do not care. This is just my opinion. This is something I just come to the conclusion of, at least the women who date them at least, do not care about racism. To a lot of these people, particularly with certain backgrounds, college educated, corporate, whatever, so-called scholars, racism isn't the biggest thing. It is sexism. That is the belief. Matter of fact, there was a viral post made on social media saying men of color are more sexist than white people are racist. With the entire existence of slavery and all this stuff, this woman had this to say. This is why I said, when I saw, when you see these women from these Muslim countries, whether it's Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, when they move to countries like the UK or throughout Europe or America, the American system has convinced these women of color that they have more freedom as far as them being able to, move up in workforce, education, financially, they're able to separate themselves. And let's be honest, the ability to move around in the dating world. So because of those restrictions being lifted in other countries, those same women would then denigrate their own culture and where they're from, no matter what the West has done to them. They can bomb them, steal their resources, go over and murder millions of people, rape, pillage, it don't matter. And when you really think about it, during the Vietnam War, you had so many Vietnamese women during that war that lasted that long that were willing participants in mating and procreating with the men who are invading their country. And I'm not talking about the women who are unfortunately attacked, sexually assaulted by these military members. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones who willingly married and moved and got citizenship in America. It's not really that important to them. So this thing is a surprise to me, but funny enough, this guy here, let me see his name right quick again.
I'm here with James Fishback.
James Fishback. I got something funny that he said. Kiefer said he looks like a tiny, yeah, either that or Cuban or something. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he in Florida, so it wouldn't be surprised if there's some Cubans. Let me show something else that he said here with Tucker Carlson. Earlier, I talked about how certain things that are intra-communal. I was talking about 50 Cent, him constantly making this gangster content, this rap, this gangland type content, and how at some point the content isn't meant to really entertain. I mean, it isn't meant to educate or entertain its own people. It's spread out. It starts to leak out and go into other cultures and become a representation of Black people. I think the same thing is going to happen with this. Let me play it.
And they called you a racist for that?
They did, which is actually quite interesting because I got a call from the Foundational Black American Society here in Florida. Who...
Hey, man, please understand anything these people say that, quote unquote, I don't want to use the word, anything these people say to refs, Black grassroots movement, please never take it as a validation of it. It's not validated because they mention it. If I saw so many people seeing this clip and started immediately going, yeah, it's real. I told y'all it's not just an internet movement. Like, bruh, these people have agendas. This dude just told you that he believes that this country is a birthright to white people. He does not give a damn about no foundational Black American. He knows it can be used as a tool to create the ethno state he thinks deserves to be America, which is a white ethno state. So let me finish playing this.
Who reminded me that Byron's mother is Jamaican. He is Pan.
I'm going to restart it on. Virginia says, I just watched Sinners for the first time last night, and dang, the vampires be on Black folk like white on rice. Yeah, man. Sinners with the quickness. And that's what he was after too. He was after that soul. He was after the soul, man. He was after the soul. Let me play this now.
And they called you a racist for that?
They did. Which is actually quite interesting because I got a call from the Foundational Black American Society here in Florida who reminded me that Byron's mother is Jamaican. He is Panamanian, and they found it quite insulting in their words that he would try to claim victimhood of slavery without a single descendant of American slaves in his family.
I like those foundational guys.
They're so good.
Tariq Nasheed and all. I mean, I don't agree with everything, but like they've got a perspective. If your family's been here 400 years and the descendants of a lot of American slaves or families have been here 400 years, I don't know. I think that gives, I'll listen to you. Like you've
100%.
You've got a point of view that is legitimate, I think.
Yeah. And they're unequivocally heritage Americans.
That's for sure.
100%.
I mean, they're definitely heritage Americans, if anyone is. And, someone rolled.
And it's funny how the ADOS FBA thing has been around for over a decade now. And you got the white people who, this has been around too for a while, but now they're pushing this heritage American thing even harder. And he treated it like they're now accepting of the Black people. They're allowed to be quote unquote heritage American too. Like, we don't need your approval. The fuck you mean?
Pulls in from Ghana and gets an MSNBC slot and starts speaking on behalf of Black people. It's like, shut up, honey. You've got nothing to do with this.
Right.
That's
Literally.
a fair perspective,
right.
I think.
And so it's good to actually see them call them out for that. That's actually cultural appropriation. Appropriating the struggle of slavery.
I totally agree.
And the struggle of slavery was real. I don't think Republicans ever want to really whitewash that. It's real, right? But for
we're
Byron,
against slavery.
We're against it.
Whether it's in the, West Bank or here or anywhere.
Or anywhere.
Yeah, against it.
And so for Byron's group, his team, to call me and essentially our entire supporting base racists for saying that you're a slave when quite literally you took $45 million. You won't tell us what you agreed to take that money this early in a primary, which is unprecedented. You know this, how unprecedented that kind of money is in an uncontested primary until now. But secondarily, to actually go out and try to gaslight us and think that you're just one of those guys that has been here, since the early 1800s and your family was in the struggle too, you're not. And that's a very interesting term that the Foundational Black Americans use. It's called tether. They're tethering these tethers like Byron Donalds. They come here literally one.
Let me tell you something, man. If you don't think these people are watching what you do and keeping up with everything you do, see, they understand the idea of making sure you know what your enemy is doing. What are their plans? What are they thinking? And this also is going to be this might end up being a really bad thing. If you got these so-called MAGA right-wing people using the term tether towards, first it's going to be used towards immigrants. And the immigrants it's going to become racial. It's no longer within the community now. You're no longer saying the coons are getting called tethers. The foreign coons, we call them tethers because they're trying to, do harm politically or even socially to Black Americans. So they're tethers. The second these white people start saying it, it turns into a racial thing. And then what happens when these same white people start calling Black Americans tethers? That's when it's going to be a real joke. When the certain ones start using that term on Black Americans. And now you sitting there saying, wait, I'm not a tether. That's not what a tether is. They don't matter. They don't change the term unk. The term unk, when people used to call, unk is a simple term. Everybody know what unk is. It's shorter of uncle, but that towards people that's not even uncle because it's a sign of respect to elders. They don't change the uncle to mean uncool. When they change the definition of what tether is, it's going to be funny.
One generation in, and they try to just sit around and act so folksy that we're all part of the same struggle and we're all down on our, and we need to fight against. No, you just got here, dude. Like the Haitians, like the guys from Ghana who just got here, you don't get to just be a part of our system and then lecture us about how our country went wrong.
And they
using your top points and everything, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. All right, what we got next? What is this? I'm absolutely astounded that Americans can see an unmasked vehicle with agents that don't identify themselves shoot an American citizen, a mother with stuffed animals inside her car, and just say, oh, well, she should have just complied. I'm logging off this app for the rest of the day. America is going to crap faster than I could ever imagine. Oh, well, she should have just complied. Is that not the starting line for every police shooting involving Black men? You should have just complied. As Professor Thomas J. Curry said, he said, the denial of white women. You watched for a whole decade while Black men were executed in front of their families, children. Philando Castile was killed in front of his family. Willie McCoy was sleeping in his car and killed. What exactly is hard to believe? Oh, that it could happen to a white woman. Exactly. Also, I just found out, I didn't know that in the shooting of the 12-year-old Tamir Rice, I didn't know that his sister was there. I didn't know that. Apparently, after they shot him, they actually held his sister down. They tackled her and held her down after they shot him. I didn't know that he had a sister there, which is somehow made it even sadder, honestly. Anyway, what else we got? White woman feels like she's not no more. Comply to the rules of what's meant to go forward and how we're supposed to move. She's up for extermination too. She's no longer automatically protected as perceived whiteness because of her skin tone. What is her ideology? What is her belief? Stephen A. Smith says killing of Renee Nicole Good by ICE was justified. Now, Stephen A. Smith, I'm only talking about this because, as I say, he's been trying to get into the political talks for the last couple of years. And unfortunately for him, he constantly tries to play the middle. On one hand, he's a race baiter that'll constantly bring up race as a justification to something bad happening to a Black person. He'll justify it being race-based all the time. But on the other moment, he'll turn something that seems race-based and say it isn't and defend it. He always tries to play this middle. I guess you could say, well, he's unbiased. He goes case-by-case basis. That's what you want, but that ain't really what he does. He joins the side that he deems will have the bigger audience, the one that will get the most support. So he says this, and I'm going to play what he had to say.
Tom, you got to ask yourself, what damn country do you want to live in? At some point in time, we're going to have to ask ourselves that question. And I think the time is sooner than later. Because again, from a legal perspective, don't expect this ICE officer to be prosecuted. I'm telling you right now. She was in the car, Renee Nicole Good, 37 years of age, protesting, blocking off the streets. ICE wanted her to move. An officer got in front of the car. Another officer got to the side of the car, and then she tried to take off. And in their eyes, the Kristi Noems of the world for the Department of Homeland Security, and other folks on the right are saying, oh, they consider it an act of domestic terrorism because she tried to run over an ICE officer. It's not going to be prosecuted. My point is, let's not focus on that for a second, okay? She was wrong to drive off. She should not have done that. Or she should have asked the officer, I'm pulling over. Could you move out the way, please? Instead of trying to disregard him totally to the point where you're going to take off and potentially hit him, and he moves out the way and draws his gun and shoots through the front windshield and took her out. But it wasn't necessary. You could have arrested her. You could have spared the woman's life. You didn't have to kill her. We've seen plenty of incidences throughout the United States of America, historically and frequently, and recently, where people who committed crimes or people whose behavior weren't indicative of law-abiding citizens who were simply obeying law enforcement officials, we've seen them walk away alive. We've seen them walk away cuffed, but they walked away alive. So even though the law, from a literal perspective, might be on his side, the reality is that your humanity comes into question because you didn't have to kill her.
And that's how you don't play both sides, Stephen A. That ain't gonna work. You're not saying nothing that people don't already understand, and especially the people that you're trying to attract to your platform, they ain't trying to hear that. You didn't have to kill it. Well, of course you didn't. They never have to kill. I mean, I say never. Most of the time they don't have to kill. That's not the point. Their training says you put people down. You don't play with them. Speaking of people trying to play both sides, I got to show this. This was one of the saddest attempts to twist words and agree with something that somebody disagrees with. Trying to agree with something you clearly disagree with. This is how it looks. I'm gonna play this right here. How you really? They're talking about the Nick dude says something about black people should be arrested, but basically saying all black people should be in jail or something. Yeah, we know. But listen to how this black dude tried to agree with him while not agreeing with him.
How you really say most black people should be in jail, and
yes,
he retreats
they
to
should.
This, what do you mean? Most
they
black
should.
People?
Most yes, the ones that obviously do the crimes, but I don't.
How you say most people should be in jail and then say the ones who do the crime when that's not even, it's not many people at all.
Don't need to explicitly.
But that's not what that sentence means.
I don't need to. I'm not taking that 110% literal. And even like for Nick, he's like, oh, I get what he's saying. Like even my father, when I made the video and people were in the comments talking about it, like we easily get what he's saying. The other black content creators who react to Nick got what he's saying. Yeah, most blacks do need to be put in jail because they keep getting let out. You watch any body cam footage, the code blue cams, code blue safety, daily dose of crime. There's so much.
But that's a tiny percentage of black people.
It's enough. It's enough black people out there in these hoods, in these streets that do something, and they get let out. Do something, get let out, or don't even get in trouble at all. They plotting, scheming, scamming. I know. Allegedly, I know many black scammers. They're not in jail. I think they should be. I totally understood what he was saying. Like, and most blacks need to be locked up. Yeah, but obviously not a black person that hasn't committed a crime. No.
This is the stupidest shit I've seen in my life. And see, this is what happens when you join that right wing grifting in an attempt to get these people to watch your content and get money off of it. You sound like a fucking idiot. How are you going to, at one hand, agree with somebody saying that most black people should be arrested and in jail, but only the ones that commit crimes? And it's not most. He's not saying what you're trying to make him say. That's not what he said. And the white dude is looking at him in his face and saying, you sound like a fucking idiot. That whole right-wing exploit, the only person that was able to get the most profit from it is Candace Owens. The rest of y'all, and she was willing to say and do things that was silly too, but the rest of y'all just look stupid. And I remember this dude, the black dude. I remember a video or a clip of him going out during the Kamala Harris-Trump race in 2024. And he was acting like this person who didn't have a side, didn't have a dog in a race. He was just being objective. And now he's pulling this stunt because if Trump would have lost, he would have been pushing the other side. But Trump won, so now he's pushing it. That was the stupidest shit I ever seen. Virginia didn't say that's crazy, dude, because I was just thinking, what stupid shit is the video talking about? It is what it is. And they willing to make themselves look that stupid, for profit. It is what it is, I ain't gonna play this. We're gonna move on to the next topic. What we got? Oh, we're gonna run through this now. Yeah, we're gonna go through this now. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. All right. France working with allies on plans should U.S. move in on Greenland. So we saw what happened with Venezuela. We immediately saw threats go towards Cuba, Colombia, Bolivia, which is a part of a lot of the drug trade going on. People are calling Maduro, the president that was kidnapped out of Venezuela, calling him a cartel president. He's a drug lord. And then they pointed out, actually, the drug lord and it's going on in the United States. We forget what they was doing in Afghanistan all those years, those poppy seeds, those fields, those heroin fields they had going on over there. And saying there's a reason why after the United States pulled out of Afghanistan, there was a big spike in fentanyl usage. They collected their drugs and came and sold them. But anyway, America always been a part of the drug deal, which is why it's funny that Vivek Ramaswamy's bodyguard is now jammed up with a drug trafficking charge. But anyway, France working with allies on plans to the U.S. move on Greenland. France is working with partners on a plan on how to respond should the United States act on its threat to take over Greenland, a minister said in January 7th, as Europe sought to address U.S. President Donald Trump's ambition. Then we got this here. $10,000 to $100,000 person. Trump to Denmark. I forget that sometimes Denmark still has the same system. They still got a king and a queen and all that stuff, and princesses. Because there was a whole thing going on with the MAGA fans, the Trump people, where they were making they were trying to push Trump's son, Baron Trump, onto the princess in Denmark to try and get the land that way. Because these people really perceive Trump as some type of king. It's kind of crazy. But let me play this right here.
I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too, I have to tell you, and they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land.
Isn't that ironic? The president of the United States said just because they landed a boat on Greenland don't mean they own the land. Talk about no self-awareness at all. I'm pretty sure there's some people that would say the same about America, Trump.
I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also, but we need that because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger, there are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way.
It does seem like a flip was switched, don't it? I feel like in Trump's first term, he did his typical stuff that every president does, whether it was Obama, Clinton. They bombed places, they did the drone situation, they killed people, they did some covert ops and killed some people and all that stuff. But he was much more diplomatic. He's talked tough, he threatened, but he didn't really carry out real actionable, violence towards other countries. Like he went to North Korea and shook hands. He went to China and shook hands. Russia. It does seem like the second 2026 was about to kick in, there was already a plan for the year. Like, we're going to have to go back to our old ways. We're going to get back on our bully. Regina says, I recently watching Matt Walsh and Tucker Carlson and essentially said America wasn't America until his pale-faced mankind ass showed up. Well, yeah, they say the same thing about South Africa. They say that in America, they say that the Native Americans were not people who owned the land. They were just people inhabiting the land. That they didn't have a structure. They were a bunch of wild beasts. They didn't really have it wasn't a country. It was just land that people lived on. And it wasn't until they came that they turned it into an actual system and made it a country. Same thing is said about South Africa. A lot of those white South Africans, they will say that the so-called black South Africans there did not live in they didn't live on the land. They didn't own it. There was no owners. It was all empty and desolate. And that when they came, they built on it. And then the South Africans tried to claim it. So they literally call themselves natives. What they call it, Afrikaners. They call themselves native South Africans. Virginia said, I'm trying to figure out how you surface from a cave, then take this attitude about the globe. Hey man, they some bad hombres, man. Bad hombres. All right, let's move on to this. Yes, I gotta show this clip here. This is Jasmine Crockett. Let me play a little bit of this.
Today is January 6th. It marks the anniversary, the 5-year anniversary of the insurrection on the Capitol. But President Trump has pardoned everyone involved. He shut down Jack Smith's investigation. We just heard from Jack Smith. He continues targeting his political opponents. Now, why do you think so many Americans are minimizing January 6th? And as someone who was in the room, my understanding, for Jack Smith's deposition and testimony.
The reason why nobody cares is the only person that was harmed was one of them. The only person that was harmed during January 6th was a Trump supporter, got shot. So, like, what are we talking about? The damages that was done was people walking around. We saw the video, people walking around in the halls and stuff, going to people's offices. Nothing. The reason why people don't care, because nothing really happened. They went into a building that they weren't supposed to go into and then left. That's all that happened.
What was most striking to you?
Jack Smith was the right guy for the job. I do want the American people to know that. This was someone who not only had the experience, but also understands what it is to actually be a prosecutor. You are to seek justice, not convictions. He made it very plain that it didn't matter what political affiliation someone had, he would have done the exact same thing.
He's worked for both Republicans and Democrats.
He's worked for both. And so he was very credible. And, you know, I do want to just say this. Everyone wants to talk about how Maduro was illegitimate. As we see, I do want to be clear. Somebody else was trying to be a Maduro of the United States. Somebody.
Now that point right there is what I want to get to. There's this thing that's done with the so-called Democrats over here where no matter what action is taken against another country, they never flat out talk against it. When America went and killed Gaddafi and all these other leaders of these countries, the Democrats or the people who are supposed to be interventionist, anti-war, they would say, yeah, that was a bad person. But now Maduro is a weird case because I've seen the celebration of his capture in America, and I've seen the protests of his capture in Venezuela. And there is definitely a stark difference in how these people look. I'm not saying that everybody in Venezuela was a supporter of him and defended him. I'm saying that there's a much bigger audience of people that supported him than people are leading on to. And that in that country, of course, there are going to be people who supported the other candidate are going to be happy that the person they didn't like is no longer in power. That doesn't mean that person was illegitimate or a criminal. But let me show this here. Because part of the reason last episode, and the world has been saying the reason why Trump went over, because Trump said out of his own mouth, we're going to take the oil, we're going to sell it, and help the country make money. But there's a problem with that. American oil industry to get involved with this. Apparently, and I'm going to show a video of a guy breaking this down. America has put, not America, but American oil industry has put $500 billion into the oil in Canada. And those people came from Venezuela. They were in Venezuela, they left Venezuela and went to Canada, and had to build it up with $500 billion. It might take $1 trillion to get the oil out of Venezuela And I don't think they'll ever believe that's worth it. And if you get all that oil, there'll be a surplus, which means the oil prices will drop. I'm sorry, the purchasing power of oil will drop tremendously. So it doesn't make sense to put that oil out. The only thing that would make sense is to get that oil and just hoard it, keep it there, and make sure nobody gets it, so that you can keep the prices high when you try to sell these barrels. It's almost like diamonds. I Show Speed, the streamer who does these tours around the world, he's in Africa right now, and he was in a country in Africa, and he stepped out and they had diamonds on the table, big raw diamond, and he said, "I want to buy a diamond," and they said, "We can't. We sell to two people only, De Beers and another company I forgot." And you realize then there are more than enough diamonds on the planet the price doesn't have to be as high as it is. But these people that run the diamond industry, they purposely keep the prices high by controlling the amount that's sold. That's the same thing that happens with the oil. But you see right here, did Trump really invade Venezuela for oil? This is on Vox, and they go through all these things trying to say, well, it doesn't benefit financially. And in this article, they say the reason, they believe at least, the reason why Trump went into Venezuela is because Maduro was mocking him. I showed you the video last episode of Maduro on stage saying, "Lock me up, come and get me, don't take too long." That was in like last year, early last year, like March or something. And throughout, apparently behind the scenes, Trump had been talking to Maduro, trying to get him to do certain things or turn himself in and stuff. And he pretty much was going public, mocking him. And so at some point, they decided to go over there and teach him a lesson. Let me play this video here of this guy talking about the oil situation, though.
So before I get started, I just want to say you're welcome, because I'm about to teach you something completely for free, all right? U.S. oil companies will get Venezuela oil dirt cheap. Oil prices will lower, which drives growth. Which U.S. oil companies are going to go to Venezuela and do that? Do you know where all of the U.S. oil companies that left Venezuela went? We still needed to produce heavy oil. They went to Canada to produce a similar grade of oil, and they invested $500 billion there. What do you think happens if they go to Venezuela and produce a bunch of oil that competes with theirs? It drives down the value of Western Canadian Select oil. They would literally be shooting themselves in the foot if they returned to Venezuela. The only way I could see them returning there would be so they could control the amount of oil that's produced there and keep it minimal so they don't harm their $500 billion in investments in Canada. Does that make sense? Now, you could have read about all this in the morning in my new Forbes article that is coming out, Why Big Oil Won't Likely Return to Venezuela. But since you said something today, I thought I would respond to it today. Once again, you're welcome.
Okay, so that's what I was saying. This right here is what I was talking about here. This is the protests in Venezuela. And this right here is the protest. I got the video. Hold on. I don't think I have the video. Yeah, there was a video in Miami of some Venezuelan people protesting or celebrating the capture. But if you look at the composition of the crowd, they were much more, I'll say the word, ethnic looking in Venezuela, which turned into the whole conversation about Cubans. How when you look at the Cubans who are very much against the Cuban government, they typically are what you call white, more European looking. But the people who support the government are darker. So yeah, there's that. Let me play this video here.
Diasporas serve a political goal. Specifically, whenever you hear, listen to Iranians, listen to Venezuelans, listen to Cubans.
And Iran just went up in protest. They burning down mosques right now in Iran. And there's no question to me, at least, that is definitely a Mossad, CIA thing going on over there. Why would people who are Muslim in Iran burn down mosques? That wouldn't be what they attack. That's their religion, that's their belief, that's their culture. That tells me that is They're definitely Mossad or CIA.
You must always ask which, because the ones that are in America for a reason. And that's not cynical or undermining. That is a fact of American power, is that we only accept immigrants and diasporas, at least in the first wave, that are serving our aims. We saw this explicitly happen with Cuba, where we brought in a bunch of Cuban immigrants that are now not welcome, who had their plantations and their slave plantations and their palaces stolen by the communist regime.
Yep, and that's why they hate the Cuban government now, and the ones who stayed in Cuba, they don't respect the Cubans here in America. They see them as a bunch of attempted slave masters, landowners, which is funny because now you come to Florida, you know, a lot of those people are right-wing. A lot of them are MAGA supporters down in Florida.
We took in many Iranians who were of the upper class of Iran.
Yeah, same. What's his name? The ex crown prince of Iran who lives in California. He's a big Zionist, strong Zionist. Actually, his daughter married a Jewish man. And if you know Iran, and they're supposed to be ex-royalty, ex-crown prince daughter married a Jewish man. That's crazy. But apparently, the ex-crown prince in California, who lived there now since like the 90s or something, his wife, they've been making fun of him for the last couple of days. I've been seeing they're making fun of him because apparently his wife is having an affair with some yoga instructor. You know, imagine that. A crown prince's wife is having an affair with a yoga instructor who used to be a porn star. Yeah, who's French, by the way.
And you can tell that because they still support the Shah, the monarch of Iran. And now we are seeing it play out very extensively with Venezuela, where it is not all selection bias, and there is some discussion to be had, but the overwhelming force and the political instrumentalization of this diaspora is not an accident, but it is a feature. So yes, you should censor the people that are most affected, but the fact is most Cubans, Venezuelans, and Iranians do not support American intervention. So don't allow this correct maxim of centering those that are affected to be centering those that are affected that you have access to, because America has control of who is affected and who you have access to. And if you aren't cynically considering why and how they're making that decision of who you have access to, you're not doing the people that are affected any good.
Which started with the episode, which is who gets the credit, who gets the protection, and who gets the blame. Let's move on. Speaking of Venezuela, I want to show this too. This was an anti-Maduro Venezuelan at the protest. I think this is in New York. Just kind of proves the point he was making about who's allowed in here and their politics. Let me play this.
That's what we're doing. That's what needs to get done. Not to the U.S. Not to the people that are capitalists. They want to destroy everything that's built by the people.
So you see the Venezuelan referring to the other guy as a nigger, a Africana. That's so, it's obvious what his beliefs is. I'm gonna get to a post somebody made where they think they needed to teach Black Americans about the so-called the racism amongst the Latino countries, and it was kind of weird that they thought they needed to teach people that, like, it wasn't well established. This person right here said, "This is what we Black Latinos have been telling the U.S. Black community for years. White Mestizo Latinos are deeply anti-Black. This is nothing new." Well, we knew that too. I don't understand. But we already knew this. The problem is, when y'all come to America, like everybody else, y'all call your Spanish lineage, your Latino-ness, over your Blackness to the ones that are actually darker melanated. Let me try to find what else was this. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. There was something I need. Okay, here we go. Because in this situation, somehow Black Americans became the topic of discussion when it came to America intervening in other countries. We are now beneficiaries of imperialism, apparently. So this person said, yes, Let me blame the Black and indigenous people for being in America. Don't piss me off. It's a quote just to say, as a friendly reminder, I'm from a country where we embrace our indigenous culture. We're required to learn our indigenous language. Me, myself, I'm fluent in whatever language it is, even though I'm aware of my European heritage. I'm the most empathetic towards indigenous people. But Black people are not the same as indigenous people are. Black people in the U.S. are privileged as white people are outside the U.S. I know y'all be suffering. I know y'all be habitual be suffering from discrimination there. But once you get outside that racist country, you are 10 times more privileged than the average Latino. That can't be true when there's racism in your own country. So if a Black American goes to those countries, they're still dealing with racism. I don't understand. So this whole thing turned into a conversation about Black Americans benefited from imperialism because of their status in America, the passport they have, that they're benefiting from it. Ignoring all the history in this country, ignoring all the atrocities committed in this country towards Black Americans, saying that they benefit from Americanism globally is funny, considering how much people hate America in general. That's why they refer to even Black Americans here as gringo. It ain't just white people. There's something else about this. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Oh, here we go, right here. Let me show this. This person right here had to say, I think people are just ignoring the reality that most Black Americans aren't actually against imperialism, in the same way that many white Americans are not either. Americans in general are very indifferent to American imperialism. Keep in mind, when you talk about the anti-war efforts that existed all the way back to definitely Vietnam, it was a lot of Black people that were pushing against that. Matter of fact, one of the loudest voices against that was Muhammad Ali. So that can't be true. This person, y'all aren't against imperialism, which is why y'all come here. Gain citizenship and then vote against the interests of your own homelands. See, also gleefully joining every branch of the U.S. military. Yeah, I remember I saw a viral post of a Nigerian, a dude. He made a post about his declaration of love for his country and his flag, but that he joined the U.S. military for opportunity and that he'll always be a proud Nigerian. It's like, but there's so many steps that had to happen for you to reach the military. First off, you had to come to America, gain citizenship, which means you had to take an oath to America. You know, you had to plead an oath to America. Then you had to walk around with that flag. Then you had to join the military. You had to denounce your other citizenships when you came here. And then you join that military and denounce complete loyalty to this country and willing to die for it. I don't think that proves your love for your home country. They spent time trying to virtue signal all day, punishing you for being born here while they try to get here illegally or legally. Venezuelan oil brought to the U.S. would be refined in Black Gulf communities. So that's the benefit of imperialism for Black Americans. What they call it, environmental racism. That your community will be destroyed by the amount of oil that'll be refined near you, but that's a benefit to you apparently. Now this right here is a picture of the wife of Maduro. Apparently she had a bruised eye, like somebody punched her or something. And when this came out, immediately I saw an article started implying that it may have been her husband that did it. And then I saw somebody say, here come they're about to justify their attack of Venezuela by saying, hey, look, the same thing they did with Afghanistan, once again, Iraq, all these other countries. We need to liberate the women. It ain't just he's a dictator that lied about an election. He's illegitimate. He's causing pain and suffering to women and children. We need to be in Venezuela. And if you see this right here, oh, that's not it. Hold on. I think that's it right here. He keeps saying she failed. Yeah. Maduro's wife faces covered in bandages after U.S. forces invaded their home and kidnapped them in a violent raid. But Western scholars are pushing articles about how oppressive Maduro's policies are for women. Again, we see feminism functioning to provide the moral justification for American imperialism intervention in white supremacy. Feminism has always been a part of that system. If I can convince your women that you are oppressive to them, they're more willing to move away from you. They're more willing to turn a blind eye to the things we do because, hey, at least I have more quote unquote freedoms. Look at it. The rise in the Chauvista regime, however, has undone many of the gains that women achieved under 20th century democracy under Nicolas Maduro. In particular, women have suffered structural, repressive, and institutional violence. The dictator's reaction to Machado receiving the Nobel Prize exemplifies this decline. He denounced her as a demonic witch of the Sanya and claimed that 90% of the population rejects her, which is funny because she's been trying to make herself the obvious choice to replace him as president, and Trump came out and said she don't have a lot of support. So he kind of agreed that she does not have the support to become president. Women are leading Venezuela's fight for democracy. So they show the bandage right there. That ain't at all how she looked, but you know. Now you tell me, do you believe that the president of the country, because this looks very fresh, do you believe the president of the country of Venezuela recently beat his wife, and it just so happened the second he beat his wife, the U.S. military stepped in, kidnapped them both, returned them to America and New York to be put in the courtroom? Or do you believe that those military members themselves, maybe this woman tried to fight them off, and being the vicious dogs that they are, a lot of them, they decided to punch her to make her submit? Which is more likely to happen? Virginia says another perspective is elite circles, black eyes means moving on up in the next level. That's a good point. We've seen all the politicians, all the videos of them having black eyes or swollen hands. I think it's right hand, right? The swollen left or right hand. That might be what it is too. Remember, I had a little theory when the Haitian president was killed. And they said they shot his eye out and tried to use his eye to get into a safe. And then the wife, she got shot too, but she lived. And I immediately said, it's real convenient that she just so happened to live in a situation, because it could have been a situation where he used her eye to make sure the safe didn't open, but they never get to see that one. And then of course, after the fact, light investigation error, which I think she was cleared, but yeah, you might be right, Regina. Maybe there was, like I said, there was supposed to be some investigation, some talks behind the scene for him to turn himself in or give himself over. So maybe his wife was a part of that plot. Who knows? Let's move forward. And obviously after this happened, a couple countries in Africa banned Americans. What's it called? Burkina Faso, Niger, and another one. They all banned in Mali Americans from coming in. So they very aware that Trump, he's coming after a lot of these countries right now. So I'm pretty sure they already got a sleeper cell. There was another attempt on his life. The president of Burkina Faso, they tried to do another coup. She was likely resisting. Exactly. One was sleep minding her business. They just came in and punched her. We're going to just the last segment here. We're going to go through these four little tabs. Here. We're going to get up out of here after this. All right. Democrat speech on immigrants led in North Carolina governor to intervene in primary, he says. Now let's see what this woman had to say first.
Me to line up and another group to raise awareness about their plight, I unapologetically say no.
Facts.
I am ADOS, American descendants of slaves. I am a Black American, and I am an American. I'm going to present my case in support of House Bill 318, as it is time for my unapologetic truth to be shared with all of you. First, as a people, we need to recognize that it's not just the numbers that matter, but also where the immigrants come from and the culture they bring with them to another country. As a social scientists report, all cultures are not equal. Some immigrants come and believe they can function in isolation, refusing to adapt. They have come to our country for many reasons, but I suggest they must assimilate.
You know, it's funny because there's a country in Northern Europe. I forgot which one it is. It's not Germany, I don't think. There's a country where their immigrant population, they force them to spread out amongst the country. So they don't allow them to create an enclave and be isolated from the rest of the country. So any place where they consider to be high crime, high unemployment, they force them to spread out throughout the country to separate from other people to make them assimilate into the local culture or the culture faster. So that's being done in other countries.
Adapt to the culture of the country they wish to live in. No country is going to allow people to come in and not acknowledge its constitution, legal systems, and laws. They will not tolerate it.
And language. So many people come over here and don't even bother to learn English at all. They don't care to. As a matter of fact, a lot of these people, these jobs and corporations, they actually expect you to come in bilingual so that to help them. Imagine being elected into your local city council and you're being told you need to learn Spanish because there's an influx of Spanish people moving into the country, and they're going to come in here speaking Spanish to you, unable to speak English, and you need to be able to talk to them. The mayor can't speak to the people in their county or city or whatever because they don't speak English. That's how crazy it is right now. Some of these small towns or small cities around the country are completely have an entire population, almost 80% of their population don't speak English. So now, guess who gets elected after that? Another person who don't speak English. So now that the mayor, most of the city council don't speak English, and the damn population, the small population that do speak English, they're forced to move at this point.
As a country, the United States has been more tolerant than most other countries. Other countries are making it much more difficult to get citizenship. We have been naive. We have been exploited and abused by the different tactics to gain citizenship in America. It's time to wake up. We must establish new rules to address a distinct type of migration that we are facing in our country, state, and cities. It's time to turn the conveyor belt off. Let me share with you all what happens when a woman lawmaker like myself choose to move differently. Yes, I was degraded for my vote. Yes, I was called racist for my vote. And yes, I was said I was trash. However, I figured it out. They want me to stop elevating my ancestors' history. They want me to be silent in my country. They want me to line up behind their priorities while my people and communities continue to struggle in our country. Is this not your country? This is my country. With the good and the not so good, this is my country, 'tis of thee. Now, if you want to adapt to my country, not isolate yourself, and come here legally, I welcome you. But today, I am telling you, I am not going to be silenced by those who disagree with my ideology on the issue at hand. It was my ancestors who came over as slaves, built this country with a strain on their backs. They sweat pouring from their bodies in the rice fields, the cotton fields, and the tobacco farms for this country. Lived as servants and was the footstool, I said the footstool, for far too many feet to step on. So today, if you ask me to line up behind another group of people to raise awareness about their plight, I unapologetically say no. If you ask me...
Agreed. But for that speech, they came against her. Democratic speech on immigrants led NC governor to intervene in primary. North Carolina's governor says he stepped into the Democratic primary election to endorse a challenger because of the floor speech during the contentious veto override vote on the immigration bill. Stein endorsed incumbent Mecklenburg County Democratic Representative Carla Cunningham's primary challenger, the Reverend Ronnie Sadler, on Monday. The Charlotte Observer reported Stein told reporters on Tuesday after the Council of State meetings that he could not endorse her because of the speech during her veto override debate. The endorsement this week also came as Cunningham issued an apology for her comments during the House floor debate that drew swift rebuke from some Democrats. Cunningham was in the deciding vote. Republicans needed just one Democrat to vote with them to override Stein's veto on House Bill 318, which required stronger cooperation between sheriffs and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement known as ICE. During her speech, she said all cultures are not equal. Some immigrants, we know what she said, we already went through all that. Stein said he endorsed Cunningham's primary challenger because I want to have the best General Assembly that we possibly can have, one that is committed to moving North Carolina forward, to creating an opportunity for more folks to embracing this value that everybody deserves a shot in this state. And Reverend Sadler, I think, is great, and he embraces that vision as well. Standing up for your people costs you a lot, and you got to be willing to do it. Now, that don't mean she can't win the race, but obviously the Democratic Party is throwing their support behind the other person, so we'll see what happens. One more video on immigration. Let me show this.
Ahmed, I'm speaking today on behalf of the Somali community in Lewiston. Some of you sitting here today, we voted for you. We elected you to protect our community interests, not creating division or go after one elected member from our community. If this narrative continues, our community will be forced to re-examine our relationship or political relationship, including our relationship with the Democratic Party and who will be voting in the future.
Think about this for a second. This man said if you allow the narrative to continue that we are committing fraud, pretty much, we will vote for another party. Now, the black woman just said, that black elder, that black woman said, I'm going to stand up for my community and make sure I'm not putting my people in the back of the line. Make sure that the things we need are being taken care of. And they endorsed a whole nother person. This man came out and said, if you let them continue this narrative, the relationship we have with the party may change. Isn't that the same thing? Man, oh man. But yeah, anyway. What else we got? We can say this right for next week. I can say that for next week. Yeah, I want to say that for next week. Hold on. We'll save that one. All right, last thing I want to show. Speaking of the fraud, I'm not going to go into it too much. So the last thing I want to show. Judge clears way for Minnesota welfare fraud ringleader to forfeit Porsche, millions held in accounts. So, like always, whenever you find one of these crazy scandals that happen or scams that happen, person at the top of the mark is a white person. So it's a white woman who apparently was the ringleader of all this welfare fraud, I'm sorry. It reminds me a lot. Remember when during COVID, when in California in particular, they were doing all these smash and grabs at these jewelry stores and clothing stores. And they were saying, first they said it was black people. Then people started looking at the videos and noticed that it looked like Hispanics. And then it turned out it was a married white couple that it was the ringleader of the whole thing. Well, that seems to be the same thing that was happening with the welfare situation. So not surprised. The greatest scammers on the planet, they continue doing their, whatchamacallit, hold on. All right. Anyway, man, I think I had y'all here enough. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Appreciate the support as always. Hopefully enjoy the conversation. And always be sure to like it on your way out. Just not share it if you can. And as always, people, all praise to the Most High. And peace, man.